If the news has felt like too much lately, too long, too loud, too overwhelming, this is your sign to do it differently this new year. I'm Erica Mandy, host of The Newsworthy Podcast. Each weekday, I break down the day's top stories in less than 15 minutes, giving you the facts, multiple perspectives, and even some lighter conversation starters, so you're not bogged down by arguing pundits or alarmist clickbait. It's a simple, efficient way to stay informed, feel confident, and move on with your day. Search The Newsworthy wherever you're listening to this podcast and follow or subscribe to The Newsworthy today.
In the first episode of 2026, our conversation centered around coherence, rather than motivation or discipline. Coherence is what gives you the courage to be you. Many of you understood what I was pointing to, but asked a very valid question. How do I live this? How do I translate the courage to be me into daily reality? And this is what we're going to talk about today. Hello and welcome back to Unbox the Podcast. If you're new here, we just started season 2026, but you have a lot to catch up on. Ooh, my cat is sitting on my desk, and if you hear any meowing, that won't be me. By the way, all the episodes are available to you, and if you're listening on Spotify, I've rearranged some of them into playlists. DM me if you don't have the playlists, or better still, subscribe to my newsletter, and you will be getting weekly alerts on the podcast, plus a monthly or a quarterly newsletter with updates. Back to alignment, coherence, and how to live your truth. So when I talk about alignment or coherence, I am not talking about something abstract or philosophical. I'm talking about the result of self-awareness across what I refer to as the 4 dimensions of change. This is the foundation of my intuitive life mentoring, the Unbox with Sahar work that I do. Alignment doesn't come first. Alignment comes as the result of developing your awareness, the result of doing the inner work before it is reflected in your outside world. It is the result of being self-aware on 4 levels: the body, the emotional state, the belief system formed by your experiences and responses so far in life. Only then is the action in alignment. When people feel stuck, it is usually because they're trying to act before checking those first 3 dimensions. They go straight into action. Action without coherence creates effort, resistance, and self-doubt. Why? Because you're always changing, always evolving, and your inner world changes with that too. In turn, the inner changes are going to affect how you behave, how you act in the outside world. In my work, action is never the starting point. It is the outcome. If the process that preceded the outcome or the action is not checked, you're not going to end up making or taking the right decision or action. In my work, action is never the starting point. It is the outcome. If the process that preceded the action is not checked, you're not going to end up with the right decision or action. When the body is ignored, you push. When the emotions are bypassed, you rationalize, but you still carry pain. When the belief system goes unchecked, you repeat patterns without knowing why. That is not lack of discipline. It's lack of coherence. Let me give you a practical example. Although my goal is to stay off the spoon feeding, as I told Liz and Aisha, 2 of loyal Unbox the Podcast listeners from New Zealand and Switzerland. And by the way, I thank you both for your feedback. And I also want to give a shout out to Emma from England. I appreciate your feedback and loving your binge listening to previous episodes. And Jamie, since we're giving shout outs, thank you for the podcast review. I love that you loved the anniversary episode.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Just to let you guys know, Unbox the Podcast has 70% female and 30% male listeners, and I would like to see us reach the gender balance point. So guys, please follow, subscribe, and let me hear from you. Have the courage to be you. The women are already expressing it. Let's get back to living coherence. A client recently asked for my input on a business plan she was writing. Instead of reviewing the plan itself, I said to her, before you write this business plan, you need to revisit who you are, why your offer is unique, and what do you actually want out of your life and of your business? She replied, but I already know who I am. And I said to her, I do this myself every year. We are in a constant state of change. Who you were 5 years ago or even last year isn't necessarily who you are now. What mattered to you then may no longer matter in the same way now. What once felt aligned may no longer be coherent or in alignment with your values and your goals now. This is why recalibration matters. You need to check whether what you're building still reflects your core values, your direction, your purpose, not because something is wrong, but because growth requires review. When you're clear on who you are, why you do the work that you do, why your product or service is genuinely unique, and what value it fulfills, the next steps become obvious. You don't need to struggle with it. You don't need to overthink it. Action becomes easier to deal with because it is in coherence. This is how coherence works. You work on the inside first, then the way you act on the outside follows naturally. This is alignment. This is also why I often say the self-aware person uncovers their true identity. That identity doesn't change depending on the role you play. Whether you are a mother, a partner, a CEO, an employee, or building something of your own, the core self remains the same. What changes are the roles. What must remain intact is the core. And this brings me to why this year's theme is the courage to be you. This is because the single hardest thing we can do is to face our own truth, to face what the physical body is holding on to face emotions we have suppressed or avoided, to face belief systems that once protected us but are no longer valid. Folks, this is not comfortable work. It requires honesty. It requires restraint. It requires staying in the present instead of distracting yourself with action or self-judgment. But without this, there is no coherence. Self-awareness across body, emotions, and belief system is not optional in my work. It is the groundwork. Only then does action become the right step or the inspired one rather than a reaction. And that is why I don't promise silver bullets or quick techniques as a solution. This is the alignment we're talking about. And it is how coherence becomes livable and results in flow. You stop asking, what should I do? And you start asking, what am I ignoring in myself right now? What needs recalibrating? And when you answer those honestly, the right action follows. Before we go, I just want to remind you that today we discussed why alignment is the result of self-awareness, why action comes last rather than first, and why facing your truth is the real courage. If today's episode stays with you, please subscribe, follow or review Unbox the Podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. If you want a simple way to check your own coherence across the 4 dimensions, then finding your balance is the right tools for life for you. I'll leave the link in the description. Use it as a reference point, not something to fix yourself. Thank you for listening. This is Sahar wishing you the courage to be you. And remember, keep showing up, staying true to yourself. And I'll see you next Tuesday.